so many new pieces to this IU football team.
To me, that's going to set the tone on how you get ready for games on Saturday in the fall.
I would put that Indiana room up against anybody else in the conference, and that's something that we typically don't even come close to saying.
If you want to get total sickos committee about it, there's a position battle at long snapper too.
This is the Hoosier Huddle Podcast, part of the College Huddle Podcast Network.
All right, welcome to the Hoosier Huddle Podcast. I think you guys could hear me now. Sorry for the technical issues. Just always has to be something. But I'm Sammy Jacobs. We'll have all our stuff ready to go for Big Ten title. So send in your questions in the comments section. We'll read them off. We'll show them in comments as well. We'll break down matchups to watch, keys to a win, anything and everything Indiana football this weekend in Indianapolis. So the festivities start tomorrow as Indiana's football team will be led up to Indianapolis by an Indy car, leaving Bloomington at 5:30. Fans are encouraged to go send off the team in style tomorrow. And then, Big Ten Fan Fest kicks off tomorrow. Friday's my favorite day to go to Big Ten Fan Fest since nobody really goes and it's always empty on Fridays. No lines for anything. You could do all the stuff that's meant for kids, and it's a ton of fun. On Saturday, I would suggest getting downtown early. Places pack up. Tables and bar spots are tough to get. So it's going to be a festive atmosphere down in Indianapolis. We do major sporting events very, very well. So send in your questions. We'll get down to it here in a second. All right, Indiana versus Ohio State, 1 versus 2. Even though some national outlets are downplaying it, it is only the third time, I believe, in Big Ten history that 1 versus 2 plays each other in conference. There was 2006 Michigan, Ohio State, and then I think 1985 Iowa, Michigan at Kinnick Stadium. So it's a rarity. Tickets to get in price at Lucas Oil Stadium somewhere around $600. Kind of a ridiculous. They should have bought the tickets when IU beat Oregon, and they were still like $150 a piece. So it's going up. Hopefully they go down. Big Red warm up is at the convention center as well, and it's going to be a packed day in Indianapolis. So let's get down to it. The tail of the tape here. Both teams come in 12-0. Both teams went undefeated in the Big Ten, 9-0 and 9-0. Ohio State didn't play basically anybody who was ranked up until, from Texas on up until Michigan. But they somehow, undefeated, number 1 team in the country, have gone under the radar, in my opinion. They had 2 of the best players in college football, in Caleb Downs and Jeremiah Smith. Their redshirt freshman quarterback, who that was probably the biggest question entering the season, was how he was going to play, has acquitted himself well with 3,000 passing yards, 30 passing touchdowns, and is in the Heisman running. This game should determine who the Heisman winner is in Fernando Mendoza or Julian Singh, Ohio State's quarterback. The stakes there, they're still high, even though the college football playoff seeding should pretty much be set in terms of getting a bye. But, the chance to win a Big Ten title, the chance to knock off Ohio State, the only unfortunate part about that is it's not a home game, but it is in Indianapolis. It's indoors, which is fantastic, especially since it's 14 degrees outside in Indianapolis right now. So, the stakes are there. A lot of people have called it a meaningless game. I don't think it's meaningless. I do think it is unnecessary, and it's definitely a money grab from people. But you're not going to tell Indiana fans or Ohio State fans, for that matter, that winning a Big Ten title doesn't matter anymore. And I spoke to Andy Graham, who used to write for the HT and is now retired, and we both agreed that it should be kind of like the Big Ten basketball championships, where it's Indiana and Ohio State shared the regular season Big Ten title, and if you win the Big Ten title game, you win the Big Ten title outright. So you still get the sense of accomplishment there. But yeah, from playoff standpoint, and we could get into this, so send in your playoff questions as well, because I'm ready to hammer down on the ridiculous committee this week. So send in your playoff questions. But it's Indiana, it's 1-2. If I picked on the podcast, I said 2017 Ohio State. If you haven't listened to the podcast, sorry, spoiler alert. But if it's a game that's in one score or 3 points like that, if IU loses, they shouldn't drop out of that 2 spot. I mean, the worst that they're going to do is drop down to 4, and that's if Ohio State runs them out of the building, which I don't think is going to happen. And then, if the flip side happens, Ohio State probably shouldn't drop past 2 either. So, we'll see what happens. It's not meaningless in that way, but it is. The stakes aren't as high for a playoff position. It's not like Duke and Virginia. It's not really like the SEC title game either, where if Alabama loses, they're putting themselves in peril as well. But kind of like the Big 12 title game a little bit. BYU puts themselves in peril if they don't win, but Texas Tech should be in. So let's get. I'll take a second to let questions roll in. We got 131 people in here, and we got our first question from Alex Compton. Assuming we get a bye, where do we go with win and with loss? Okay. With a win, IU's going to the Rose Bowl. That's just, I think, how it's going to work. And I think it's pretty much official. The winner of this game goes to the Rose Bowl. The loser, from what I've heard, Indiana will probably go to the Orange Bowl. And I'm fine with either one of those. I would love to go out to the Rose Bowl for the one magical day. As cool as it was to see the Rose Bowl during UCLA, the stadium's not all that fancy and all that stuff. But on January 1st, the magic of that day transforms that place into a special place. And it is a magical place. You want to go to the Rose Bowl. If you go to the Orange Bowl, a lot of Florida Hoosiers will be there. We saw that happen when IU played down at FIU, a handful of years ago. IU will travel anywhere now. It is so great to see. They took over Ross-Ade. You saw it last year at the Rose Bowl. You saw it at Northwestern, where half that stadium was IU fans. You saw it even in the Horseshoe against Ohio State. That was the loudest you heard IU fans get in there. So, yeah, D'Angelo Pons is father. Angelo Pons, welcome to the show. I haven't ran into you in the Uber line this year. And, yeah, so hopefully it's a Heisman-Doza showdown against Julian Sayin. So print the T-shirts. I don't know what Julian Sayin's thing is, but, yeah, print the Heisman-Doza show. All right, chances the three of the 4 buys are Big Ten teams. I think it's lower than people think. You got Ohio State, Indiana are pretty much locked for buys, at least in my opinion. I don't know what this idiot committee is going to do, especially with who is it, Juracek or whatever his name is in charge. The winner of the SEC game will get a bye no matter who it is. And then you have to figure if Texas Tech wins, they're in. And then if they lose, they're probably out, and maybe you get the runner-up with the SEC. I just don't see Oregon jumping up there. I just don't. It could happen, but I don't think the chances are super high. Are we doing any pregame broadcasts in Indy? I'm not planning on it. It's just such a long day, and it's hard to set up. We'll be around, and we might do some mobile broadcasts on TikTok and Instagram and Twitter and all that stuff, and do some man on the street stuff. But to sit down and broadcast it, probably not. But we will be down. We're going to Big Red warm up. We'll be at FanFest on Saturday. We'll be around Georgia Street on Saturday as well. I know some other podcasts are doing broadcasts and things like that. But it's a day that we want to enjoy too. We've been doing this since 2013, put in a ton of work, and to soak it in with you guys and the fans is part of that. And we'll see if we could do a live broadcast. It would be fun to do, but that's not really our plan. Our plan's more to shake hands, interact with people, come ask us questions at wherever we are, and we'll be happy to talk and stuff like that. So it's more of a personal interaction than just basically talking to my wall right now. IU needs to win a trophy that is permanent and that's theirs forever. The Buck and Spittoon are great, but they're just rivalry trophies. Yeah, I mean, this is anytime you could add hardware to the trophy case is great. Anytime you could add a Big Ten championship, it's great. IU has 2 of those trophies. At least they have won 2 Big Ten championships. Whether or not they have the actual trophies is beyond me. But yeah, it's to have that hardware, parade it around with alumni, donor events, pep rallies, all that stuff is pretty cool. Usually you just get to see the Big Ten trophy at Big Ten Media Days or some other event for the conference. And you're like, hey, one day we'll get to do one of these. It has been since 1991 in the Copper Bowl, since IU's won a postseason game. This should count as a postseason game if IU wins it, but the season's not over with the loss. You get to go to another major bowl game and in the playoff and win that. That still counts as a bowl win. You got to get off of that bowl losing streak list as well. Let's go to Paul Starr. Am I crazy to actually have confidence going into this game? No. I kind of feel crazy that I picked Ohio State, but you got to listen to the podcast to hear my reasons. So, no, it's not crazy. When I did a couple of Ohio State podcasts with them, they were convinced that IU would have 70% of the fans there, at least. I'm not 100% sure. I would expect it to be 50-50, but coming from the other side, if they think IU's going to have more fans, there's a pretty good chance at that. IU does match up well against them. You have 2 really, really good receivers for Ohio State. Probably the 2 best receivers in the sport. The 4 best receivers in the sport are going to be on the field in the game as well, with Omar Cooper and Elijah Surratt. So definitely a lot of star power. But you have D'Angelo Pons, who's an all-world corner. Can he shut down or at least limit Jeremiah Smith. And then your other corner, Jamari Sharp, is going to have to play well, and your safeties are going to have to communicate. You're going to have to get pressure on Julian Sane. It's hard to say that Ohio State has a weakness, but where they're not the strongest at is giving up pressure up the middle. And that's where Tyreek Tucker, Mario Landino, and Hosea Wheeler have really lived this year and make it difficult. Is if you could get pressure up the middle on Julian Sane, his PFF ratings and scores, quarterback ratings and all that stuff drop dramatically. He's still good against the blitz. He's still good, when the pressure's on him, his accuracy goes down just a tick. And Ohio State hasn't played a defense like IU's yet. Everybody's saying, well, Ohio State. Well, Indiana has a good team too. So, yeah, you're not crazy for having confidence. If this game was outside and it was 14 degrees, confidence in Fernando throwing a cold ball got pretty shaken last week at Purdue. But guess what? It's indoors. I'm going to take an educated guess and say the roof's going to be closed. And that was a joke. And the offense should be pretty well. Here's the key. Drew Evans has to play. And if Drew Evans plays, my confidence goes up. They're undefeated they only lost 2 games in the last 2 years. But when he plays, they're undefeated, and that offensive line looks so much better. And you have so much more depth. You don't have, you could substitute Mikulski in there. Johnny's done a really nice job at the guard position where you could plug him in for some plays and get fresh body out there as well. Now, he doesn't substitute all that much on the line during the game because it does give the opportunity for the defense to substitute. But, yeah, this is going to be a good one. S&P Plus has it 25-24. And if it's a 1-point game or a 3-point game, a lot of people are going to have a lot of anxiety, to say the least. I think the offense has to play better. I don't think it'll be a high-scoring game. Either way, these are 2 very, very good defenses. And I know the old adage, and a whole bunch of Bobby Knight fans are going to throw stuff at me for saying this. I don't think defense wins much anymore. I think defense keeps in the game, and now it's an offensive game. All these rules are geared towards offense. And it's so hard to play defense. So, your defense could be really good and hold Ohio State to 20 points. But if your offense doesn't do anything, you're not going to win. So you got to have an offense. I think if the offense has a really good day, I think IU's in good shape because the defense could make it hard for Ohio State. But they're both good defenses. I think the over-under is at 48.5, and TJ and I both took the under. But I think if the offense has a better day, IU has a better chance to win. If the defense has a better day, IU still has a chance to win. I just think it's slightly less. Any updates on EJ playing? No updates. I assume it's an ankle injury based on him getting tackled. He was kind of dinged up going into Wisconsin. Got tackled around the ankles and limped off, which to me screams ankle sprain. But I'm not a doctor, not a nurse, not a medical professional. Anyway, it wasn't shocking that he was on the injury report to me against Purdue. We'll see. He's had, 3 weeks to get ready. He's an important piece. He doesn't have the numbers that Surratt and Omar Cooper have, but he gets those big first down catches that go for 7 yards, which sounds moronic, a big 7-yard catch of first down. But that's one of the keys to make this offense go, is that they're in 2nd and 3 or 2nd and 4 and then 3rd and 1, and they just, continue to go downfield that way. So as good as Charlie Becker has seen, they kind of missed that against Purdue. Now, some of that was Fernando just was terribly inaccurate with the ball. It shouldn't be that way on Saturday. So we'll see. But yeah, EJ, don't know. We'll find out 2 hours before the game when the availability report comes out. I haven't heard anything that Sig said. Nobody asked about injuries on Monday, which I'm fine with. I think the injury questions are sometimes silly, and we only get so many questions. And you're talking about a Big Ten title game that's number 1 versus number 2. It just doesn't happen. Hoosier Hayes on Drew Evans, a clean bill of health. I don't know if it's a clean bill of health, but he did dress out against Purdue. He warmed up, and I think they just gave it to him for the extra week. So, you don't – if there was any chance of him getting injured or making it worse, I don't think you play him or even let him warm up in the cold like that. So I would expect him back. I expect him. He was off the injury report on Saturday. Again, not a medical professional. They're not going to tell you if it's a clean bill of health. Is he 100%? I don't think anybody's 100% this time of year in college football. But I think he'll be good enough to go, if that makes sense. That's a great long answer to say nothing, isn't it? But good questions all night. Keep them coming. To me, the matchup to watch for this game is Indiana's pass rush against Julian Sayin. We talked about it a little bit earlier. Chances the game lives up to the hype. Do games ever live up to the hype? Like, to people, it could be a great game. I mean, maybe the watch shot and stuff like that. But games that are super hyped, even when they're very, very good games, might not live up to the hype. Look, if Indiana wins, yeah, the game lived up to the hype. It's going to be a bonkers atmosphere in Indianapolis. And God help those bartenders on Saturday night. Yeah, I think it's a good game. It might be more of a defensive game, which kind of makes it less exciting for some people. So, like, hype-wise, when you hype up a great game, you expect, big plays on offense, 41, 40, 42 points for each team, and it comes down to, like, a great play and stuff like that. But I think this game should live up to the hype. Hopefully the refs don't make it the ref show with replays and all that stuff. Hopefully there's a good flow and all that stuff. But yeah, I think it lives up to the hype. But it's sometimes people hype it up too much and they'll never ever live up to expectations. Yeah, force Sayin to make a freshman mistake if that's possible. It's possible. He's very good. And he's only a redshirt freshman, which is kind of ridiculous. That was, coming into the season, the question about Ohio State was how are they going to replace all these NFL guys, which they did. And then can Julian Sayin grow into the quarterback role? And he survived against Texas, made the necessary plays, and then just got better every single week. So we'll see. Who do I think gets left out of the CFP? I think Miami does, and I think Notre Dame's not in a great spot. And if Notre Dame makes it over Miami, then why are we bothering playing games? And I know it was at the beginning of the season, but college football is a 12-game season. There are no preseason games. hate when people call them preseason games because they're not preseason games, they're not conference games. But yeah, I think Notre Dame and Miami, especially if Duke wins, somebody's getting left out that probably shouldn't be left out. But yeah, it's those three: BYU, Miami, Notre Dame. I don't think Alabama's going to get left out losing in the SEC title game, although they probably should, but they won't. That's another tricky part of this is, how much are you going to punish a team for losing in this game? We'll see. There hasn't been much talk about it, but I'm hoping OSU might have a lack of focus after the Michigan matchup last week. Do you think there's a good chance of that happening? I don't know. I don't think it'll be lack of focus. Maybe they'll still take their foot off the gas a little bit. Again, the season's not over, win or lose this game. You still have a lot to play for. You still have at least 3 more games left if you want to get the ultimate goal. So, is a Big Ten title important? Yes, absolutely. Are there other bigger things to play for? Yes, absolutely. Are you going to sacrifice those other things to win a Big Ten title? That's the question. So if you're getting beat up, I think both teams are going to try to get this game over as quickly as possible. Run the clock, chew up the clock. Michigan went on a 20-play, 11.5-minute drive last week. We'll see. I think Ohio State has been in neutral for most of the year. How long does it take them to get out of neutral? I've seen Ohio State in this championship game blow Wisconsin out. I've seen them beat other teams. They're going to be ready to go. So, yes, shutting Ohio State fans up would be fantastic. Have they really faced a defense that pressures the quarterback as much as IU yet? I'm excited to see if we could get some pressure on him. So let's see the defenses that Ohio State played. Texas is a pretty good defense. Michigan got no pressure on him, like none, 0. So we'll see there. What other teams did they play? Penn State got I think a little bit of pressure. Let's see what Penn State did against Ohio State. Their pass rush in that game, it was graded out on PFF at 65.8. For reference, against us, it was 76.4. It was, they had the same pass rush against Ohio State that they did against Northwestern. But, it's, and Rutgers and all that stuff. I would say Penn State's probably the best on that one. So, would you rather win this game? I'd rather win this game than lose. Yeah. Somebody asked me that, Alex. Somebody asked, would you take the loss to Ohio State to guarantee that you'd play for a national title? I said probably. Probably. Yeah, I'd probably trade it. I'd definitely trade it for a one and done in the playoff. It's again, you went 12-0. You can't take away that from IU. You split the regular season Big Ten title. You're playing an extra unnecessary game that is there for money to crown a Big Ten champion. But yeah, like Sig said, no self-imposed limitations. Why can't we do both? Why can't IU do both? They can do both. And here's the thing. I've seen a lot of people, well, can they win 4 games in a row and go on a run? You have almost a month between this game and the Rose and Orange Bowl on January 1st. And then, those are midweek games. Then you have a week and a half till the semifinals. And then you have a week and a half to the college football playoff national title. So it's not like you're going through with 6 days in between games and just getting the hell beat out of you. You have a few extra days to rest. You have 3 or 4 weeks to get healthy between them. Sig has coached the playoffs before with JMU and other teams, so he knows how to handle it. Yeah, why not? Why not win them all? Will they? I don't know. Do they have a shot? Absolutely. So, 17 players with conference honors, the most in the conference. So it's either them or Ohio State. I didn't count up. I've been so busy this week. I did not have time to count up everybody else's Big Ten honors. And I didn't see a total. Nobody did the work for me. So that's something you can chat GPT, plug in chat GPT before bed and find out. But yeah, it's to me what IU has had a ton of postseason honors, and that comes with winning. You had Fernando Mendoza won Player of the Year, Quarterback of the Year of the Big Ten. Carter Smith was the Lineman of the Year. Nico Radicic somehow was second team All Big Ten by the coaches, yet won the Big Ten Kicker of the Year award, which he should. He hasn't missed anything this year. And then you had a whole bunch of, first and second team and third team and honorable mention guys. And then you look at the national awards with the Maxwell Award, the Heisman Trophy. Aiden Fisher's up for the Lombardi Award. It's just unbelievable about how many national awards IU's up for when we don't get to do it. How much of an advantage does IU have in the special teams department against Ohio State? I think Indiana is better on special teams than last year, and that's where IU lost the game last year. That and the offensive line, and both are improved. We all love Mike Kadick, but his answers about the Ohio State game and the noise did not inspire a ton of confidence. That he couldn't hear the clap. We're just going to snap the ball whenever. It was clear that they timed it up, and all those things. And then, of course, I don't want to bring up all the bad memories and PTSD for everybody. You had the drop snap on the punt, which turns a 7-7 game into a 14-7 game. And then coming out of halftime, you have Evans punts it to the wrong side of the field. And yes, the coverage team probably should have tackled him, but they had a long way to go, and there's a lot of gaps when we kick it to the wrong side of the field. And Caleb Downs takes it for a touchdown. All of a sudden, it's 21-7, and that's it. It's over. Right there. This year, the offensive line is better. Yet Coogan has played. This will be his 4th game against Ohio State. It's in a neutral stadium, so it's not going to be 110,000 screaming Buckeye fans, for a lack of a better word. That noise will be, and IU's gone into plenty of places with noise this year. So, the special teams is better. Now, I'm not super impressed with Mitch McCarthy's punting, but he also hasn't had that critical error yet. I think Nico Radicic is really good. They need Brendan Franke back. If Brendan Franke comes back, he can negate the kickoff return. Ohio State has elite athletes all over the field, and they just have that one guy who returns kicks, who runs like a 4.1 40, and could get upfield. If you could have Brendan Franke kick the ball out of the end zone, that negates that part of the game. Plus, you're not getting smashed by blockers on those plays and beating people up. And then, as good as Radicic has been, it's clear that Brendan Franke has the stronger leg on long field goals. and he could be a weapon there in a game that you might need a 58-yard field goal. So we'll see. Again, from Hoosier Hayes, leaving Kamara and Daly off the all-conference teams was certainly a choice. I understand Kamara. He has not had the year. Now, he has the quarterback pressures, and you can go off of PFF scores and all that stuff. And, he's been double-teamed, held, chokeholded, whatever you want to say. He's affected the game in a positive manner. However, when you're looking at the stats, and I vote on a lot of this stuff too, and you can't watch every game and every rep and every play of every team in an 18-team conference. However, you look at the stat sheet, and he's just not filling up the stat sheet like he did last year. So I understand him. Daly, I kind of get too. He only played half the year. And people look at that. Now, to me, that should mean that he gets more credit because look what he's done in half a year. But, if you had the Kellen Wyatt, Stephen Daly split and put him like second team Big Ten, I'd be okay. But, yeah, it's the voting for these awards, at least in my experience when voting for them, you go to the stat sheet and then you go to the tape. So if it's whatever, Jacob Rodriguez from Texas Tech, okay, let's go see some Texas Tech games and all that stuff. But you're not watching these games and going, ooh, that guy. Especially when they're not filling out the stat sheet. But I know that's kind of a hot take on Kamara and Daly, and people want to be mad about it. I understand Kamara, and I kind of understand Daly too. Daly got more of a snub than Kamara. All right, more questions, and then we could get into, Indiana will fly the victory flag and win the Big Ten if. So I'll give you another couple minutes to get questions in. We'll go till 10:30-ish, and then, go rest up for a big weekend. Also, if you haven't checked out the new site, do it because I think it looks great. I think there's some feedback I could use as well. But yeah, come back, come to the site, check it out, and enjoy it. All right, last call for questions, and then we'll get into keys to victory. As long as Hoosier doesn't eat the poison nut, he should be all right, right? I mean, that's the Ohio Bobcat got Brutus a couple years ago. It's like a decade and a half ago. I mean, the Ohio Bobcat beat the hell out of Brutus too. So, look, here's my take. Whoever Hoosier the Bison is able to jump out of an airplane by himself, which means he's probably a military guy. And those dudes or ladies are badasses. So I'm going to take Hoosier the Bison. And he rides a motorcycle, or they ride a motorcycle, whatever it is. But, they kind of tip their hand jumping out of a plane, no guide. No, you have to have a certain number of jumps or hours or however they count them to jump out of a plane. Usually that means you're military or some sort of person who goes and jumps out of planes all the time. So give me a Hoosier. That's the break. That's the inside information that you guys paid $3 a month for. And Jeremy Gray is not Hoosier the Bison. I've seen them both in the same place at the same time. All right, last call for questions, and then we'll get into keys to an IU victory. All right, for me, I mean, as always, the key is to score more points than the other team. But let's get real now. Who other than Mendoza do you see being the X factor to tilt the advantage to IU? Be a unit. If I have to single it out, I think it's Tyreek Tucker. The dude is built like a fire hydrant, and you don't want to ever run your car into a fire hydrant because it will not go well. Ohio State struggles, and Jamie Jordan, who's IU reactionary who writes for us, said this in his preview. If you haven't checked it out, Ohio State gives up pressure up the middle, and they struggle with it. And for whatever reason, Tyreek Tucker is really, really hard to block. Like, nobody's figured out how to block. It is literally like blocking a fire hydrant. You're just not going to move him, and he's going to move you. For a guy who, if you saw him walking down the street, you'd be, okay, he played football, but you wouldn't think he was an all Big Ten performer based on his stature. But he has elite skills, and he could get to the quarterback. To me, that's the X factor. Aiden Fisher's an easy one. I like to go a little bit outside of the box. He's an X factor too. But yeah, give me Tyreek Tucker as the X factor. So that leads me into the keys to victory. One, you got to pressure Julian Saint and get pressure on him. You cannot let him sit in the pocket like Michigan did, because he will pick this defense apart no matter how good D'Angelo Pons is and the secondary can be. If he has time, if anybody has time, you could have the all-stars of all-stars in the secondary. It's not going to go well. So pressure Julian Saint. You don't have to get sacks. It doesn't have to show up that way. That would be great if it did. But force him to make uncomfortable throws. And look, they have two all-universe receivers who, if that throw is even a little bit off, they still could catch it. Even if it's a mile off, they can still catch it. And then, run the ball on offense. Indiana's offense has to be balanced. That's not, hey, you got to run the ball 30 times and throw the ball 30 times. No, it's production, at least for me. So, if you could run the ball for 150 yards and throw the ball for 200 yards, that's enough balance to make Ohio State defend the run, put those corners on an island to where they have to play and grab Elijah Surratt and Omar Cooper and Charlie Becker and maybe E.J. Williams. So that's another key. Offensive line has to hold up and protect Mendoza. And then no critical mistakes on special teams. No drop snaps, no block punts, no big returns let up. You have to play an absolutely clean game on special teams. And it would help if you get a big special teams play from yourself. IU's been very good at blocking punts. I thought they had a block against Purdue. I don't know if he touched the ball or not, but you've seen it. Illinois, Iowa, a couple of the early games as well, where they got block punts. Those are the plays that kind of tilt the field. And you saw it last year at Ohio State, where Indiana was inside their own 25-yard line for like 2/3 of the game. And they couldn't get the ball moving or anything. But those plays on special teams, whether it's a block punt, big punt return, really that's the hidden yardage that comes into where, instead of starting at your own 25 or 20-yard line, you're starting at your 40 or heck, even on the other side of the field, that you don't have to go 75 yards in 12 plays. You can get points by getting a first down or two. And then, you're not going to win the game just kicking field goals, but if you could get points off of that, that's huge. I think also getting a few turnovers will help. And then your best players have to play their best game. And this goes to the Aiden Fisher X Factor. Last year, they said they kind of melted in the spotlight, and the moment got too big for them. That has been the focus all year, is how do we not let that happen? Your best players have to play their best games in the biggest games. So whether that's Fernando Mendoza, who's shown up in big moments in some big games, Aiden Fisher, who's always good in big games, Elijah Surratt, Omar Cooper's got to play well. Carter Smith has got to block well. Your offensive line is up for the Joe Moore Award. They got to play well. Your all Big Ten defensive linemen got to play well. If they throw it, they're going to throw it to Angelo Ponce. And, teams have tested him early. You go, yeah, this guy can't be that good, right? Well, he is pretty darn good because they don't throw to him after they throw to him that first or second time. He's got to take that challenge with Jeremiah Smith and embrace it, which he normally does all the time. Amari Farrell has to play well. Lou Moore has to play well. Your best play, and IU has a lot of really, really good players. Because I just listed off basically the entire offense and defense. But your best players, your superstars, have to play like superstars in a superstar game. I like making references to baseball all the time. You say what you want about Derek Jeter, but the guy showed up in big games. And he was almost always the best player in big games. And that's why he is in the Hall of Fame. Not because he hit so many homers or hit 300 during the regular season. It was all the moments in those big games that he showed up. And that's why the Yankees won all those things. Their best players played well in the biggest games. And that's what IU has to do. So those are my keys to the victory. Obviously, the biggest one is scoring more points than Ohio State. We'll see if they call pass interference on these defensive backs on Ohio State. But, man, what a weekend. It is going to be what a Saturday in Indianapolis. Now, a little bit of the luster came off of basketball after last night with Louisville and IU losing. But, that's the appetizer to what this main course is. So enjoy it. My advice to you guys, get downtown early on Saturday. Be into a couple of these. They're people want to get into the bars. Maybe it changes with the basketball game, but people want to get into the bars before the SEC game, which is at 4:00. So get down there early. Last year or 2 years ago, I went to Iowa, Michigan with a couple buddies. We went down to District Tap, sat at the bar for an hour, and we got there at like 12:30. Sat at the bar for an hour, finally got a table, and then sat there basically until the Big Ten game, like an hour before that, and then we walked out. Every place will be packed. There's a whole bunch of IU Alumni Association get-togethers. The Big Red kickoff, Big Red, whatever the IU one is. The pep rally starts at like 5:30. Go to the Fan Fest. If you have tickets, it's free to get in. If not, they sell individual tickets to Fan Fest. Just enjoy Indianapolis putting on a great event and that your team is participating in it and has a real legit shot to win it. So kind of jealous you guys get to enjoy it as fans. We'll try to enjoy it as much as possible. But again, it's I don't want to call it once in a lifetime because that's setting a limit into it, but this is you don't know how long this game's going to be in Indianapolis either. And to host it in the state that your school's in a great downtown area like Indianapolis for hosting events like this, it's pretty special. So if you see us on the street, if you see me out and about, do not be a stranger. Say hi, introduce yourself. Just say, hey, I know you from Hoosier Huddle or whatever, and happy to talk ball and anything else. So, the plan for me is to maybe get together between games or before the basketball game somewhere on Georgia Street and just move down. Nothing super formal, but something where we could get together, talk, and all those things. So thanks for joining us tonight, as always. And, we'll have all our coverage. We have Keys to the Game coming out tomorrow, along with Matchup to Watch. We'll have TJ's Game Day Primer coming out. And then, we have our volleyball teams in the NCAA tournament. They swept Toledo today. They'll have their second round game tomorrow. And, we have that up on the site now too. So, thanks. I do what's pretty easy. Talking football is pretty easy for me, so I enjoy it. So thanks for listening and tuning in.